This video is for all my 5th gen Toyota 4Runner owners out there. Should you upgrade to the 6th gen, what will it cost you and is it worth doing? Let's go find out. The 5th generation Toyota 4Runner has earned legendary status in my mind. It is almost impossible to go to any off-road event or pretty much any off-road trail here in Colorado without seeing at least one or two of these on the trail. These have become one of the most ubiquitous and well-respected four-wheel drive platforms in the industry. And yes, throughout the years I have given it some hell about some design features which we'll talk about in this video, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for the 5th gen 4Runner, what it's done for the industry, and what it represents to countless families that use this as their daily driver and off-road toy. Now, this vehicle is old, and there's no way around it. Compared to the newest crop of four-wheel drive, there are several features which are starting to feel dated in this 4Runner. Don't get me wrong, incredibly reliable, but starting to feel a little dated. We'll get into that now. Now, the interior of the 5th generation 4Runner is an area that I think is aged exceptionally well. Yes, there are a lot of hard black plastics, but it is a durable and, more importantly, very functional interior. Now, depending on the year of 5th generation, once again, we're talking 14 years of production, your interior may look a little different. But let's start with the technology. So in this car, we have this touchscreen display located right here in the middle of the dashboard. It is fairly easy to use and it makes common sense. I actually like the system quite a bit, and once again, depending on your year, you can also get it with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, what I really like about the system is we have both volume and tune knobs along with physical shortcuts on both sides of the screen. So yes, it's basic, but it's very functional. Another great example of that is the climate control. Toyota designed the system to be used in big winter gloves, and these simple knobs and dials just work. They are incredibly durable and long-lasting, and I really like them. Apart from that, there's not a lot of other things to talk about. Depending on the year, you can get this vehicle with adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring. All the safety stuff became very common toward the outgoing 4Runner model years. The seats are pretty comfortable, and I think that this is still a good interior even in 2025. Yeah, it's basic, but in an era where everything has gone to crazy screens, this is just a good, simple interior. No discussion of the 5th generation 4Runner can be complete without talking about the powertrain. The legendary, which it is, 4-liter V6, the naturally aspirated beast of an engine. I say beast, and it is a beast, in arguably the most important category that any engine can be beastly in, and that is longevity. These vehicles have been around for so long, it is well known these engines will last easily 200,000 miles before major repair is needed, and in a lot of cases, well over 200,000 miles. I do like this engine, and I appreciate this engine for what it can do in the long term. But from a drivability standpoint, it's not the engine that's so much the problem, it's the 5-speed automatic that it's made it to. Once again, a long-lived and very durable component, but the drivability of 4Runners, especially where I live up here at 5,000 feet above sea level, and where we're at now at about 9,000 feet above sea level, is lacking by modern standards, because this engine makes a lot of power up high in the RPM range, and there are big gaps between ratios with that 5-speed automatic transmission. And what you're left with is a vehicle that really feels like it's working out on the highway, on the freeway. Now, on the trail like we're at right now, stick the transfer case into 4 low, you got plenty of low-end torque, it's fine. But the reality is, even if you're an avid off-roader, 99% of the time is gonna be spent out on the freeway. And this engine is just not it when paired with this automatic transmission at altitude. At sea level, it's better, but I always find myself a little frustrated driving these vehicles on the highway, especially up I-70 in the mountains. And it's not because it's unusable. It's just for the price that these vehicles command, I feel like they should be better. And we're going to talk about how the new one compares. Guys, we've all been there. You're out off-road, but you don't know where the nearest cell service is if you need help. Well, our friends over at Onyx Off-Road have a really cool option now. It's called Cell Service Layers. It integrates with AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon, and you'll know exactly where the next area where you'll be in service is. Now, this is a phenomenal feature if you're out off-road alone. And as I always like to say, ride more, worry less, and Onyx Off-Road makes it happen. Guys, if you want to find out more, click on the link below, sign up for Onyx Off-Road, and receive a discount using our promo code. Stepping into the new generation, and you are immediately blasted by this enormous 15-inch screen. Now, this is going to be optional on this new generation of Toyota. The more basic ones are going to have a smaller, more manageable screen. And here's the thing. If you are really into technology, I think you are going to enjoy this latest version of Toyota infotainment system because it is much more advanced than the old one. You got wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, you've got user profiles so you can dial in your exact settings just like you like. There's a lot more configurability here. You of course have a much higher quality navigation screen. It does a lot more than the outgoing version. For me, however, it's a little bit overwhelming. Now, of course, if you don't want this huge screen, don't get a TRD Off-Road Premium like this one. Just get an SR5 or a normal TRD Off-Road and get a smaller screen. Luckily, they do still have the big chunky controls for the volume and for the climate control. I'm really happy to say they've retained it, and they've even added these pretty nifty little toggle switches down here which work. Speaking of technology, we also have a wireless charger in this particular 4Runner, which is quite good, and then we also have very similar four-wheel drive controls. The knob's gotten a little better, but it's virtually the same thing with 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low. And then, of course, we come to the safety gear, right? On this heated leather steering wheel, every version of the 6th generation is going to come standard with the version of the Toyota Safety Sense system, adaptive cruise control, lane centering, blind spot monitoring. All of that is standard with just a couple little safety objects optional here and there. And then, of course, the sky's kind of the limit with these depending on how luxurious you want to get. So while you were kind of, you know, there were upper versions of the 5th generation, the 6th gen is taking it to the next level with things like ventilated seats, right? Memory seats. So these can get really, really fancy now, but they also can get really, really, really expensive. Guys, the best 4Runner ever made, it's an easy answer. If you spend any time on the Toyota forums or any time at all on the YouTube comments, the best 4Runner ever made, unanimously agreed, is the previous generation of whatever generation is being discussed. And I'll tell you what I mean. When the 4th gen came out some 20 plus years ago, the Toyota guys were furious. It was too big, it was too ugly, and it lost the legendary 3.4 liter V6 the 3rd gen had. People thought Toyota had ruined the 4Runner. And then when the 5th generation came out in 2010, it was too big, it was too ugly, and it lost the V8. People thought that the 4Runner was ruined, no one was going to buy it. And now that the 6th generation is out, the best Toyota ever made is the 5th gen, because the 6th gen has gone to the turbo engine, got the optional hybrid, it's too expensive, and no one's going to buy it. So let's take the comments aside, because I know that there's a lot of hate out there for the 6th gen right now. It is brand new, and let's just have an honest discussion about whether or not, if you own a 5th gen, you should upgrade to this 6th generation. Let's start with the elephant in the room, the 4-cylinder. Dun dun dun! Every single 4Runner sold today is a 4-cylinder with a turbo, which, if you're a Toyota person, is terrible news, because you bought that V6 to last 350,000 miles without fail, and that 4-cylinder turbo, it's going to be unreliable, it's going to be problematic. I remember turbos in the 80s, they were terrible. Folks, here's the thing. This 4-cylinder turbo, while it's a new engine in the 4Runner, has been out for multiple years now in the Highlander, in the Lexus NX, in the Lexus RX. It's been in many, tens, hundreds of thousands at this point of Toyota and Lexus products. If it was incredibly problematic, we would get some inclination by now. So far, it's holding up really well. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's going to be unreliable. That's the first thing. The second thing I have to say, and this has been scratching at the back of my mind for a while now, is are you realistically, and don't say I might, but are you realistically going to buy this new 4Runner and hold on to it for 300,000 miles? And I know there is going to be that person in the comment that says they do. They bought one in 1984 and they've had it new and they'll never sell it and it's got 800,000 miles. But realistically, if you look at the data, while 4Runner folks might hold on to their cars longer than the average new car buyer, the reality is folks don't typically hold onto their cars much more than 9, 10, 11 years at the most, or around 100,000 miles, because we're people, guys. We get bored, and we're car enthusiasts if you're watching this video, and you want to try the new thing and the next thing, and you want the next platform to modify. And if you're only going to hold on to this thing for 100,000 miles or 80 or 50 or whatever it may be, does reliability really matter that much? Because this car's got a full factory warranty, and then it's still a Toyota product. So I'm confident that 100,000 miles will likely, not promising, but will likely be fine for this powertrain. It's proven itself now in the Highlander, which is a huge volume selling car, in the NX Lexus, in the RX Lexus, among others, and now even the Tacoma. It's doing quite well. And so far, folks have been very pleased with the longevity of this engine. I'm not saying it's going to last as long as the old one. Not saying that at all, but I think it's going to be okay. Now, when it comes to the off-road capability, I don't want to turn this into a direct comparison old versus new, because this is a modified 4Runner. It's an SR5, which is lacking the off-road chops that a Tier D off-road would have, like that new one. It's also modified, and it also belongs to our producer Grant, so I would feel terrible if I were to break it off-road. So we're not going to do anything too crazy. We've done plenty of that in the past with the 5th Gen 4Runner. But needless to say, the capability of the 5th Gen is always astounding, I say as I immediately get stuck. So we are in 4-wheel drive low here, and if I push the A-track button in this SR5, once again, no rear locker in this, it's going to enable the advanced traction control, which will slow down the spinning wheels, modulate that ABS pump, and get us up pretty much any darn obstacle you would realistically want to do in a stock, at least, SR5 vehicle. I know that the Tier D off-road and the pros and those are really cool, but this is really all you need for most folks. I know there's people that disagree, but for the casual weekend off-roader, the SR5s are good. But anyways, let's get back to the capability of the 5th Gen when you're really pushing it. Amazing. I mean, almost no notes as to how these vehicles perform. They're not really intended to be all-out rock crawlers like a Wrangler is. And there are people that do. There are people that long travel to suspension, the independent front suspension. They do crazy stuff to the solid rear axle, and you can spend tens of thousands on suspension alone in these vehicles. But out of the box, they are so impressive. They'll easily tackle 5 or 6 rated off-road trails. And if you're looking for the best off-road trails in your area, you have to check out OnX Off-Road, our #1 off-road navigation software. Integrates with Apple CarPlay. Never get lost when you're out on the trail, and use the code below for a discount. That's a little sponsorship there, but I genuinely use OnX on my daily basis. But anyways, if you have a 5th Gen and you're looking at upgrading to the 6th Gen for more off-road capability, I'm not sure you are realistically going to gain much. I do genuinely mean that. It's more fuel efficient. It's better on the road, which we'll talk about in a second. It's got a lot more power. It's got more creature comforts. But if what you truly care about is, can I tackle this rock old to new, the old one will likely do it just as well as the new one. These are impressive off-road machines. And coming to you as somewhat of a Land Rover and Jeep guy, I'm always a little frustrated with these off-road out on the trail, because they shouldn't do what they're able to do. And I know there's a lot of 4Runner folks watching this that know exactly what I mean, where they're often underestimated for being the boring choice, but they just astonish when you get them out in the dirt. So I have no worries about this thing off-road. It is that good and that impressive. The daily drivability of this new generation hasn't improved 10% or 15 or 20 or 30%. It's improved for where I live at elevation probably close to 100%. Because not only is this new engine more powerful, 317 horsepower, it's not the power on paper that matters. That old one has plenty of horsepower and torque on paper. I drive a 1980s diesel Mercedes with 123 horsepower. I am no stranger to driving in the right lane slowly. But what has improved in this vehicle is the power delivery. It makes its peak power at 1700 RPM, somewhere in that territory. And it has 8 ratios in the transmission, so the computer can keep it in its peak power range longer. Plus, I've been averaging on the highway about 22 mpg in this vehicle at 75 miles an hour, where the old one would struggle to get 16 and 17. So from a livability standpoint, this powertrain makes a huge difference. Oh, that's the front chin. Forgot to remove it for this off-road video. Now, we did a video recently, trying to figure out how much MPG improvement you get with that front chin, and it's somewhere around 0.8 of a mile per gallon at 75 miles an hour. But look, from an off-road capability standpoint, I talked up that old 5th gen, I'm gonna talk up this new 6th gen. Has it gotten worlds better than the old one? No, I'm gonna say it. I think the torque delivery is better. I think some of the refinement with multi-terrain select and crawl control has gotten better, but the old one was so good, I don't think they've really built on that very much. But that's like saying building another pyramid is going to be worse than the old pyramid. They're both pyramids, they're both going to be awesome. And that's a terrible analogy, but the point is, just because it's not necessarily better than the old one, doesn't mean that it's not amazing. It is still freaking incredible. And taking this thing off-road into Moab a few weeks back for the first time, once again, it did the 4Runner thing where it just blew me away on everything that I attempted. It's just that good. And it's gotten better from, like I said, the smoothness of the crawl control, the actuation of the crawl control I think is a little better, but the old one would have done the same stuff. This is just even more comfortable at doing what it needs to do. And then we come to the big question, the price. Now, if you look at the base price from 24 to 25, hasn't really changed that much at all. But if you look at the upper end trims, the ones that people are excited about, like the TRD Off-Road and the Pros, that's when we see the big price increase. This is a $58,000 vehicle that I'm sitting in right now. The move, here's the move. If I were in your position as a 5th gen owner, I would sell your 5th gen now for a lot of money, because they are always worth a lot of money, and I would buy a new 6th gen in either the TRD Off-Road base trim, the standard one if you can afford it, or an SR5. An SR5 is going to give you 4-low, the good 4-wheel drive system, the turbo engine, a slightly smaller screen, not so many gadgets, but it's still going to give you 80% of the experience. Then put some tires on it, maybe some lights or a bumper or two if you want to look cool. You're not going to have the rear locker, but once again, I'm not sure that 85% of people need it. Just enjoy the SR5 at that far lower price, and then it starts to become a value proposition. That is the move. So sell your 5th gen. I know, I love it, but I do think this is a big drivability improvement, and then get a more basic 6th gen and enjoy. That's what I would do. Folks, I would love to hear your opinion as to what you think, so be sure to drop me a comment below. As always, this has been Tommy behind the camera Jen. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.
You guys love car and trucks? Well, I've got 3 great podcasts that you will enjoy listening to, because we are deep into cars and trucks. And talking about trucks, right here is my man Andre and Case working on the next episode of Talking Trucks, where they delve deep into everything that is truckish, including breaking truck news, talking about the different models that are coming up, and of course, tearing down the world of trucks as only Andre and Case know how to do. But if trucks are not your thing, and cars are sort of your thing, check out Carish, our podcast that is sort of car adjacent with Jen and Mary being the ish part of Carish. And finally, Tommy and myself talk all about cars at TFL's Car Chat, where we look into the newest models, talk about what's happening in the world of cars, break down the latest news. All 3 of these podcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts, so check them out. I think you'll really enjoy them.